Why do people at work act the way they do? It's a huge question, right? It affects every single one of us. Today, we're going to dive into that personality puzzle and figure it out.
You know that feeling? You're sitting in a meeting, and the way your colleague is tackling a problem, it's just so different from how you would. It feels like you're speaking two completely different languages. Or maybe you're just totally baffled by your boss's decisions. It's a classic workplace experience for sure.
So here's the thing. It's not random. All of these behaviors, they're rooted in something much deeper inside of us. It's our personality, that's kind of our internal blueprint, and our values, which act like our guiding compass. And today, we're going to unpack both of them.
Okay, so where do we even start? Let's start with you. Because to really understand why your colleagues do what they do, you first need to get a handle on what makes you tick.
Think about your personality as your factory default setting. It's not that you act the same way every second of every day, but it's about those consistent patterns in how you think, feel, and behave. It's really what makes you, you.
So how do we actually map this out? Well, the most scientifically solid and widely used framework we have is the Big Five model. It gives us 5 major dimensions that really help us understand the core of someone's personality.
First up, we've got conscientiousness. I like to think of this as your inner project manager. People who are high in this trait, they're the ones who always remember the little details and see every project through to the finish line. They are the reliable engine of pretty much any team.
Next, we have agreeableness. And this one is pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about getting along with others. Highly agreeable people are often selfless, good-natured, and really flexible. They put group harmony first, which makes them fantastic team players.
Then there's neuroticism. Now this is basically the flip side of emotional stability. Someone who's high in neuroticism is just more likely to feel anxious or stressed. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can also lead to someone being more cautious and better prepared. It's just crucial to be aware of how it can play out at work.
Then you've got openness to experience. These are your innovators, your dreamers, the big idea people. They're always curious and coming up with something new. This can be a massive advantage, but the key is making sure those brilliant ideas stay grounded in reality.
And finally, extroversion. This is really all about where you get your energy from. Extroverts get their batteries recharged by being around other people, while introverts get energized by spending time alone. Neither one is better. The real key here is to find a work environment that fits your style and lets you thrive.
Now here's where it gets really interesting, because this all connects directly to the real world. This isn't just theory. Conscientiousness, for example, is a super strong predictor of just getting the job done well. But what if you need to adapt to change? Well, then emotional stability and openness are way more important. This shows you exactly why different roles really do need different personality types to succeed.
Okay, so we have the blueprint for productive personalities. But what about the other side of the coin? To really understand what makes a team work, we also have to understand what can make it toxic. So let's take a look at the darker side of personality.
I bet we've all met them. That colleague who is only ever looking out for themselves, or the boss who kind of creates a culture of fear. These aren't just difficult people. A lot of times they're showing what psychologists call the dark triad of traits.
First in the triad is Machiavellianism. This is pure strategic self-interest. These folks see deceit and manipulation as perfectly normal tools to get what they want. They actually enjoy outwitting other people, and they rarely, if ever, feel empathy.
Second, narcissism. And this goes way beyond just being confident. It's an obsessive belief in their own superiority, and it comes with this intense, bottomless need for admiration. They feel entitled and can be incredibly envious of other people's success.
And finally, we have psychopathy. This is the most severe trait of the dark triad. People with psychopathic tendencies can be really charming on the surface, but underneath, they are selfish, impulsive, and they completely lack empathy. They can be very, very destructive in the workplace.
Wow, that was a lot to take in, I know. But understanding the dark side of personality is absolutely crucial if we want to build healthy, productive teams. So now, let's shift gears and talk about something a bit more positive, your values.
This is a really important distinction to get. Personality describes what you naturally tend to do. Your values, on the other hand, are all about what you believe you ought to do. They're your personal beliefs about what's right, what's good, and what's important. They are the things that guide your motivations and your decisions.
Schwartz's model is a great way to visualize all of this. It's organized around two key dimensions. The first one is self-enhancement versus self-transcendence. Basically, do you prioritize your own success or do you care more about the well-being of others? The second is openness to change versus conservation. Do you love new experiences or do you prefer to stick with what you know? Our personal values are just our own unique blend of all these motivations.
So, we've talked about personality, and we've talked about values, but there's one more giant piece of the puzzle we have to consider: culture. The world around us has this huge, unseen influence on how we think, feel, and act. One of the biggest cultural divides is between individualism and collectivism. In individualistic cultures, like in the United States, the focus is really on personal achievement and freedom. But in collectivistic cultures like in Taiwan, the focus is all on group harmony and loyalty. You can imagine how this completely changes how people work together.
Another key cultural dimension is power distance. This is all about how much people accept that power is unequal. In high-power distance cultures, like in Malaysia, people are expected to obey authority without question. But in low-power distance cultures, like Israel, people are much more likely to challenge it. And then there's uncertainty avoidance. In cultures with high uncertainty avoidance, like Greece, people want clear rules. But in cultures with low uncertainty avoidance, like Singapore, people are much more comfortable with ambiguity and change.
And finally, we have the achievement-nurturing dimension. In achievement-oriented cultures, like Japan and the US, the focus is on being assertive and on material success. In nurturing cultures, like Sweden and the Netherlands, the focus is much more on relationships and the quality of life. This has a huge impact on what people are actually looking for in a job.
So, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about personality, we've talked about values, and we've talked about culture. We've seen how all these forces come together to shape our behavior at work. So the big question now is, what will you do with this information? How are you going to use it to build better relationships, make better decisions, and create a more positive and productive place to work? The choice is yours.